Hey, everybody. Did you miss me? I know. Long time no see. I'm back. Good to see you guys. Spencer Israel here with another edition of Benzinga All Access. So, reminder, what is this show? It's a show where we don't talk about stocks, right? We don't talk about the market. We don't talk about even an individual company stock, whether it's going to go up or down or sideways, or we don't really care about that for the purposes of the show. We do enough of that on every other show. The purpose of All Access, what I always tell people, and I tell our guests this as well, and I'm going to tell it to you guys, is think of on a scale between investor presentation over here and podcast conversation over here. And we're right in the middle of that. We're right in the middle of that scale, right? It's not like a super formal, stuffy investor presentation. And it's also like not quite in the same like super casual, super long form format as like an hour and 15-minute long podcast interview, but it is somewhere in the middle. The point of this show is to get access to company executives, mainly CEOs and founders, and to learn about the story of the company, right? That's really what we're after, is getting the story of the company, of them, of the company, where they've been, where they are, where they're going. And as a reminder, and I say this at the top of every single one of these shows, the companies that appear on Benzinga All Access have partnered with Benzinga. They have paid Benzinga, but they do not know what I'm going to ask them. They may have some things that they know they want to touch on, but they don't know what I'm going to ask them about, right? So there's that. There is a disclaimer that's on YouTube that you see and in the description, and I want to get that out there just so you know that they have partnered with Benzinga. They have paid Benzinga, just so we're upfront about that disclosure. And that is why we're not really here to talk about their stock. I don't, for purposes of this show, do not care about their stock, right? We are here to talk about the story of the company. We have two guests on the show today. Our first guest will be on in just a minute here, Rick Schumacher, President and CEO of Pressure BioSciences. After Rick, will be joined by Gregory Wagner, who is the CEO of the Ryah Group. So that being said, let us start this show. All right, there we go. I'm seeing a comment about my camera, Saul. I will get to that, or I will have someone get to that for me because I'm in front of it. I'm not going to get up and leave you. That would be weird. So, okay. Again, we got two guests on the show today, Rick and Gregory. Before I bring Rick on, I'll bring him on in a moment. The first thing, thank you, thinking about it. First thing, some other housekeeping items I want to say. First, hit the like button, please. That really does help us on YouTube. You wouldn't believe this is feedback we got from YouTube. You wouldn't believe how important the number of likes are to a video. It does help. The second thing is I want to encourage participation. Okay, I've got about 20 minutes or so with each guest, but I want to save time in each of those 20 minutes for Q&A. So please, if you have a question about the company, about the business, anything, drop your question in the chat. Again, the guests have no idea what I'm going to ask them. Everything is basically fair game. So drop your questions in the chat and I will ask them. It really is that simple. Okay, so we got to the likes, we got to the Q&A. Oh yeah, the last thing before I bring on Rick is if you have any feedback at all about this show or any other show, any company you want to see, you want us to feature on this show, right? Because this is more of like an evergreeny type interview, right? It's more of a not so much, hey, talk about this news right now, as so much as talk about like, the entire history of you and your company. If you want to see a specific company on one of these deep dive interviews, let us know. You can email us shows@benzinga.com or even just events@benzinga.com. And we will do our very best to get them on this show. We're trying to be doing these shows every single week. That's the goal. Now, all that being said, let us bring on our first guest here. As I mentioned, Rick Schumacher, President and CEO of Pressure BioSciences. And just like that, there he is. Rick, good morning.
Good morning, Spencer. How are you?
Doing fantastic. How you doing today?
You know, it's a crisp autumn day here, a little bit south of Boston. It's great to be alive. It's wonderful.
The fall is good in Michigan, and the fall is also good up in your neck of the woods as well. You get those Berkshires going, and it's good. Yeah, it's good. Okay, so let's start with you and your background, and then we'll get to Pressure BioSciences in a little bit here. But you have a very, very long career in this industry, in the biotech healthcare industry. I guess we'll start with this. Did you always know that that's what you wanted to do? How did you sort of end up you're basically a serial entrepreneur in the biotech space. How did you know that was your thing?
Well, I had 7 majors in my undergraduate work because I wasn't quite sure what I wanted to do. Everything from mathematics, economics, and biology, forestry. I ended up thinking I wanted to be a physician. So, but I wasn't quite sure. So it was suggested I take a year off. I was offered a position down at Harvard Medical School to do research, where the guy that hired me had his previous 3 technicians had all gone to get an MD, PhD at Boston University. So I thought it was a good chance. So I went there for a year. I stayed for 13. I found out pretty quickly it wasn't medicine that really drives me. It's science and business. And you said I've had a long career, so that means I'm an old guy.
I knew that was going to come back to bite me.
Yeah, and that takes us back to an era when you really could not mix business and science. Believe it or not, back 30 and 40 years ago, it was a taboo to mix business and science. So I started out as a scientist. I spent 13 years at Harvard Medical School. I got bit by the entrepreneurial bug. By the time I got bit, you could start. You know, this is in the 1980s when companies were starting to be formed by scientists or co-formed by scientists. So I left Harvard to start my first company, Boston Biomedica. I started, believe it or not, in my garage. I built it to over 300 people. We changed the way I ran it for 18 years, and we changed the way that the world tested for HIV, hepatitis B, and hepatitis C at the time. Very proud of that. There are many, many tens of thousands of people alive and well today because my company existed. I helped form I co-founded an anti-HIV drug discovery company that was one of the biggest winners on Wall Street in 2006 and 7. I helped form an Irish diagnostic company called Trinity Biotech, TRIB, that's still around. And then I got to my 4th company, which I'm hoping to be my biggest and my best, because I'm hoping it might be the last one I do, and then I can maybe slow down a little bit in the second half of my life. And that's Pressure BioSciences. So that's how I got to where I am.
I assume it was helpful that you were in the Boston area, because it is of course a gigantic hub of biotech and healthcare, and that was obviously a big advantage for you.
Well, we like to think it's the biggest hub of that, but we have that battle with my friends out in San Francisco area a lot, in Silicon Valley. It did help. I mean, we have fantastic science here. We have over 1,000 members of the Massachusetts Biotechnology Council. So it's just fantastic. Every day there's something new happening here. So yes, being here is very much a positive for our company and for me personally.
Okay, so take us to 2004. You're at Boston Biomedica. What happened then? Because that was the year that you founded Pressure. So what happened in 2004 that led to the creation of Pressure BioSciences?
I had a 5-member board. I had 2 programs that we were working on part-time. We were a profitable company, 16 years in a row at Boston Biomedica. And I was enjoying myself. We were growing at 10 to 20% a year. And again, making very important products worldwide. But we had 2 programs on the back burner. One dealt with a potential anti-HIV drug, which back then, the only thing that really was on the market was a drug called AZT. In our preliminary studies, we weren't a pharma company, but we did some preliminary studies, and this natural compound seemed to be about 5,000 times more powerful than AZT. So I felt a need to try to move this along. And the second thing is I had purchased part of a company that was dealing with pressure. And then in 1996, when we went public at Boston Biomedica, I purchased all the rest of it. And it was starting to permeate and grow a little bit and percolate. And so I had these two programs, which I thought both of them could be billion-dollar technologies. The rest of my board didn't agree. So what we agreed on is we would sell the assets of Boston Biomedica, and that I could keep the two fledgling non-proven assets, the pressure technology and the anti-HIV. So I kept 3 people out of 300. We did a purchase buyback. We were left with about $5 million. I thought I was a cat's meow. I was on top of the world. I was still on NASDAQ with, I changed the symbol from BBII to PBIO and said, here we go. I quickly found 2 things. One is that a company on NASDAQ that doesn't have any products and isn't generating any revenue is a tough story to sell, at least back then. And the second thing is we ran smack into the downturn of 2007, 8, and 9. And the money quickly left as I was building my company. So it became a bit of a struggle, but you know, it's not that much good to be successful in the end if it's not a struggle, they tell you. So this is probably the biggest struggle of my life in business. But I can tell you right now, things are so good right now, and we think they're just going to get better as the weeks and months go on from here.
So let's talk about the development of each of those unproven bets that you made in 2004.
So what we've really done is pressure is an amazing force of nature. Pressure moves at the speed of sound, so it's basically to us instantaneous. And pressure can do many of the things that I was doing in the lab with heat and cold and chemicals, pH. I could do with pressure. When I heat something up to make it go faster or cool it down or add chemicals, I generally have to then take the chemicals out or cool it down or heat it back up to where it should be. When you add pressure, it's instantaneous, Spencer. You add it, boom, everything, every molecule in that substance is under pressure. When you take it off, everything is no longer under pressure. So it can do some things that heat and cold and chemicals can do, but it can do it very quickly, very homogeneously. Everything that's put under pressure is under the same pressure instantaneously. So we were the first company to really commercialize safe use of high pressure. Pressures we go to are pressures up to 45,000 pounds per square inch. To give you an idea what that is, it's almost 3 times the pressure at the bottom of the deepest part of the ocean, the Marianas Trench. We've harnessed this pressure to let it be used in instruments. So we've built instruments that sit on the lab bench or sit on the lab floor that use this pressure to manipulate proteins, to speed up reactions, to stop reactions, to break apart cells and release RNA, DNA, proteins, and lipids. Things that I did at Harvard that we just beat cells up to do it because we didn't understand at the time. Now we understand the way you prepare your sample tells you a lot about how your testing is going to be done on the other end.
All right, so fast forward then a little bit. You know, you struggle, you make it through the financial crisis. You know, the other side of that, you know, you're able to get some funding, and the money kind of comes back a little bit. So talk us through the pipeline right now, what you've got going on as far as actual products are concerned.
We have 3 technology platforms. First one is called PCT, or pressure cycling. We have 350 instruments in about 225 sites all over the world. Many of the top protein labs all over the world are using our system, which it's just tip of the iceberg, as they say. We have these instruments in some of the top government, academic, and pharma and biotech companies that you can name that are working in proteins. And of course, proteins are becoming the mainstay for developing new drugs. Proteins are used in vaccines. Proteins are used as diagnostic tools to determine whether or not someone has a disease or whether they're recovering from a disease. So the detection of the protein and the determination of which proteins can be used as markers all come from the cells, the viruses, bacteria, cancer, normal cells. And we have an instrument that can break apart cells and free up these proteins so that scientists can test and see if they can become a marker. That's pressure cycling technology. There's over 200 scientific papers that have been published by key opinion leaders all over the world that talk about this technology and how good it is. I would say that this is a technology that the market is in probably $100 million. Is that what we're doing? And we're doing about $2.5 million now in sales, tip of the iceberg. The second technology we call BaroFold. We had a press release out this morning about BaroFold. We have 8 patents in BaroFold. BaroFold allows us to what we call disaggregate. I don't want to get too scientific here. Disaggregate and to refold proteins. Very simply, proteins are these polypeptides, strings of amino acids that fold on each other. And the protein has to be exactly the way Mother Nature meant it to be to have its function. And if the protein is slightly off, it will not have that function. In fact, it can be harmful. So when companies are making monoclonal antibody drugs and many other products in the lab, they're making them in the lab in big vats, these things can go wrong. So we have the technology to fix it and maybe take a drug that will never make it to market and help it get to market, because our pressure technology will unfold and refold the protein to its correct configuration. And the last one, Spencer, is called Ultra Shear technology. This is an amazing technology. This is what gets me, keeps me working late at night and gets me up early in the morning, because we're ready to commercialize this. We've been working on it for 4 years. We're given $1 million by the U.S. Department of Agriculture. Our partner, our friends and colleagues are at Ohio State University, Dr. Bala and his incredible team. We've combined ultra high pressure with ultra high shearing or cutting forces. So it's called Ultra Shear technology. And basically what we do is we put material, liquids, in under pressure, and we release them under pressure through a patented valve that my scientists have invented, and it shears or cuts the material as it goes through. So number one, we believe we kill all of the pathogens that are in that material. And number two, we shear it so that we actually make it a very consistent single emulsion. Emulsions are when you put liquids together that aren't supposed to go together, like your vinaigrette. You put your vinaigrette down.
Well, I want to, while you're explaining this, I would like to bring up a slide that you were kind enough to share. I would like you to explain what you just said, but in the context of this slide.
So this is a slide that talks about astaxanthin. A lot of us, I take a number of vitamins every night. I think a lot of us do, a lot of things for wellness. Astaxanthin is considered by almost everybody the most powerful antioxidant on the face of the earth. It comes out of krill, and it's also made in the laboratories. But astaxanthin is oil-based. It's in an oil. So you can see that picture where if you let the astaxanthin sit out after you homogenize it, break it up, it'll separate, but it doesn't really combine very well. Our bodies are not oil-based. We're water-based. When we take an oil-based pill or vitamin, our bodies fight to absorb out of the oil whatever we can before our bodies excrete the oil from us. And so if you could make an oil-based product more water-soluble, it'd be much more what we call bioavailable. Most oil-based vitamins and other products, you might get 10% of the active ingredient out of the oil before you excrete it. Astaxanthin is in an oil, and we get probably 40% normally, but with Ultra Shear, we break the oil up into such small particles that the body now has a better chance of absorbing, and we increase absorption probably over 90%. This slide is on CBD. Everyone, I'm sure all of our listeners, many of them are or have taken CBD or understand about CBD. It's a very, very potent compound. It's one of the cannabinoids, of which there's maybe 150 that are in existence. CBD is the one we all hear about. It is in oil. So on the left side, you can see this emulsion of CBD oil and water. And when you homogenize it really fast and really hard, you get this mixture on the left, but the CBD is still in the oil. We took that sample on the left, Spencer. We put it through our machine using Ultra Shear technology. We broke the oil drops down to millions of tiny little droplets. And the sample on the right is the same sample as the one on the left, except it's very water soluble. It's very stable. In fact, the bottom, you can see that I've never heard of anyone having CBD that are developing products that is stable for more than a year. We're up to 16 months of stability. It still looks that way after 16 months. So Ultra Shear is a way to take CBD oil and make it much more absorbable and bioavailable, and many other vitamins, antioxidants, and even pharmaceuticals.
So what are the commercialization? I mean, aside from CBD, right? What are the use cases? What are the commercialization prospects of the UST system technology, I guess?
Good question. If you'd allowed me to let you ask one, I would have asked you to ask that. but I didn't have to. But thank you. So it's enormous. This is what's so exciting. The market for ultra shear technology goes across many, many, many sectors. Food and beverage. Think of all the beverages. Think about, I used to buy the vitamin water, and after 6 days, it would precipitate out, and I get this white flaky stuff. CBD water, it doesn't mix very well, and I know my body's not absorbing much of the CBD. Pharmaceuticals, there's many, about 45% I read, or 44% of drugs are oil-based, and if we can make them more absorbable, more water soluble, then the manufacturer can use less, which means the manufacturer is more profitable, and the recipient has to use less to get the same, if not better, effect. So think about agriculture. Think about pesticides and insecticides that we put on plants and fertilizers. If many of them are oil-based, if we can make them more absorbable, again, the manufacturer will make more money by selling it in smaller quantities. It'll be good for the environment, and we as consumers will use less. So the markets are just so big that it's exciting every day to think about pharmaceuticals, nutraceuticals, vitamins, cosmetics, agriculture, food, and beverage.
Let's speak broadly, whether it's about the nano emulsion technology or your barrel forward program or your pressure cycling technology. What kind of intellectual property security do you have?
So we have 29 issued patents. We have 15 patents that cover us in the pressure cycling technology. So it's going to be tough for someone to go out there and compete with us with exactly what we do. We have 8 patents that are issued in 8 different families on the barrel fold technology for refolding proteins, so we can make better drugs and even help proteins get to market as a drug. And we have now 6 issued patents for ultra shear technology. So a total of 29 patents. We have a ton of proprietary information. We've been doing this for 14 years. I can tell you that everything works different under pressure. Spencer, you probably work different under pressure. I work different under pressure. Yeah. Molecules work different under pressure. So when you're in the lab, unless you've had the experience, which we've had, of working with molecules under pressure, it's going to be tough for another group to catch up to us because of our patent portfolio and because of the proprietary information we've gained with working under pressure for 14 years. And what's exciting is that we've set a base. We now have 3 programs. All 3 of them we think are multi-hundred million, if not multi-billion-dollar fields that we're going into. And we're now ready. We're now spreading our wings with BaroFold. You can see the press release we put out today. And the ultra shear technology is one that we believe will be releasing in the first quarter. If not, then the second quarter of next year. We've already had enormous number of calls from cannabinoid companies, from a pharma company, from an Astaxanthin company that we're working with now, that all want to be able to see if our technology can make their product more absorbable, more bioavailable, more stable. And we believe in most cases, if not all cases, it can.
I've got here a list of your Q4 objectives / drivers, and you've already addressed a couple of them here. These are all things that you think are attainable this quarter?
They're either attainable or we're going to make a big dent on them this quarter. It's a very lofty list, but nothing gained, nothing ventured, nothing gained. First one, unfortunately, a lot of people get scared away from our stock because of the debt that we have on the books. We've been reducing that debt tremendously, and most of the debt that's come back is very friendly debt that will work with us and even convert into equity at the right time down the road. So our balance sheet is much stronger than it looks and way stronger than it was just a year ago. And we're working on a NASDAQ uplisting. We're working on commercializing products in all 3 of the areas. And we're just excited. I mean, things have gone well for us now for the last year. And we think things are going to even go better as the days and weeks go on from here. We're very excited.
I promised I'll leave room for questions from the chat, so let's do some right now. This one's from Rob Koss. I don't know. Rick, can you tell us when pressure will be profitable or at the least cash flow positive?
So I've made much to the dismay of my lawyers. I did give some guidance. We believe that we will be profitable and cash flow positive on a run rate by the end of next year. So it's been a long time coming. We're going to change the world with some of our technologies like Ultra Shear. We're buying the assets of an eco-friendly agricultural company that already has good products. We're going to make those products even better. So between the ag company, Ultra Shear technology, and our other two technologies, we believe we can get Pressure BioSciences to profitability and to cash flow positive by the end of next year on a run rate.
Solar Up is asking if you've had any communications with Ginkgo Bioworks. I'm sure you're familiar with them. As far as your R&D, I don't know if I don't know if they work in the same, area here as you
Ginkgo's
do.
in Boston. We
Yeah.
know who they are. I can't tell you in many cases who we're working with because there's non-disclosures and things. But there are hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of companies that could benefit using one or more of our technologies. So I think it's hard for you, Spencer, if you named the top 20 protein-based biotech companies in the world right now. I'd bet that 15 of them are already our customers for pressure cycling. And the nice thing about that is they know who we are. They know the quality of our products. So when we introduce Ultra Shear technology, which many of these companies will be able to use for their making better drugs, better vaccines, etc., they'll know who it's coming from and already have that level of acceptability. So I can't talk specifically about a company other than to say that we are in touch and working with several hundred companies and universities around the world right now.
And here's another one. This one's an interesting one from Proton. You're talking about pressure. Well, what about the opposite of pressure? What about vacuum, right? Are you doing anything with that at all or not really?
Not really.
Okay. All right. That answers that. And then there was a couple point comments in here about international markets. You have customers overseas. You have patent protection overseas as well.
We do. We our 6 patents that are already granted in Ultra Shear, 2 are in Japan, 2 are in China, 1's in Japan, 1's in Australia, and 1 is in the U.S. We have those same patents are marching their way throughout Canada and Europe. Of our BaroFold patents, they're both in the U.S. And in Europe. So yes, we have patent protection in many areas of the world, especially the areas of the world that can use products that were like the biopharmaceuticals that we can enhance.
All right, and then we don't have time for all these questions. I apologize, everyone. Let me just get to like one more. The 2 people were asking about the same thing. They're both asking about the agrochemical subsidiary and where that stands and what your sales are. Or I don't know if you can give guidance on that, or if you already.
I have given some guidance on that. I said that again. We're doing about 2.5 million total in sales right now, and I've given guidance that we think that number can be north of 10 million next year. And I've given guidance that a lot of that growth is going to come from Ultra Shear and agrochem. I've also given guidance that the 4th quarter that we're in now, that between the 3rd and 4th quarter, I believe that we'll do $1 million or more in agrochem sales. We haven't closed the deal yet, but we're working with the folks at the company whose assets we're buying, and we're being introduced to their distributors, to their suppliers, and we've already purchased a lot. I've already set up a laboratory and a warehouse in Nevada, so we're already in the business, expecting that we'll close that deal pretty soon.
All right, I have to say I'm pleasantly surprised at all the interaction in the chat. Unfortunately, I do have to let Rick go because I got to keep the train running on time here. So Rick Schumacher is the president and the CEO of Pressure BioSciences. The ticker is PBIO. There was a couple more questions we couldn't get to. Rick, tell those people how they can contact you.
Sure. They can go to our website. They can see all the information. They can send it in to info@pressurebiosciences.com. I get the info. I'll get back to them very quickly.
All right, Rick. A pleasure as always. Have a good rest of your day.
I'm going to. You too, Spencer. Thank you.
All right. We've got to keep the train running on time. because this is but one part of our daily schedule. And I have my next guest already here. So let us bring him on right now. Gregory Wagner is the CEO of the Ryah Group, and there he is. Greg, how are we doing?
There I am. Hey, Spencer. Nice to meet you. And before we get started, I was very interested in Mr. Schumacher's presentation. We are all over bioavailability and nanoemulsion technology. So right after this call, I think I'm going to call Mr. Schumacher. Thanks for the lead.
Ooh, interesting. All right. So, I mentioned off the top, the point of this is not just to talk about your company, but to talk about you a little bit. So give us your background, Greg, and sort of how you came to be here at Ryah.
Sure. Very briefly, I am a former Wall Street executive. I ran global businesses both in the United States and the United Kingdom. Unfortunately, in the United Kingdom was during the financial crisis, which was an interesting time. I am an economics major, economics degree, BA, and a master's degree in MBA in finance from Fordham University. I am also certified in innovation and strategy from Harvard University. I came to the company just about 2.5 years ago. I was picked up on some obscure website. I didn't even know my resume was on there. I was hired, Spencer, to really help chaperone the company through a transition from really a strain recommendation engine to something much more tangible in terms of our device and data story, which we'll talk about in a moment. And also to help the company through a public listing. My experience on Wall Street in terms of governance, which is in my DNA, being able to maintain and gather institutional relationships, but more importantly, my experience to hire talent, retain talent, and turn a vision into dollars. That background is really helping me drive this company more toward a startup environment and into a corporation. And we're going to tell you how we're going to get there in a second. So that's my background. I've been on Wall Street for 22 years, showing my age a little bit, but we're very excited to be part of this company as our story continues to evolve daily.
Real fast, Michael in the chat. Yeah, man, we're on YouTube. Just rewind the video and you could just rewind it on YouTube and then you'll be able to catch up. Okay, so Greg, thanks for the background. I guess last thing before we pivot to the company is
Sure.
Is there anything that sort of surprised you in making that shift from the world of finance to this, which is not really the world? You're not really in that world anymore. You're in
I'm not. No, I broke out of prison in 2015. So I ended up sitting in a room writing PowerPoint presentations for the regulators. It wasn't fun anymore. So I learned to try to reinvent myself. I learned to code a bit. I started a few of my own semi-successful startups. So I had a clear understanding of a startup environment before we got here. Why did I get here? Well, frankly, to be honest with you, I don't want to sound rude or arrogant, but I really don't need to be here. I had a great career in Wall Street. I had a fantastic career in Wall Street. And I'm here because I want to be here. Spencer, frankly, when I saw how much data this company had collected over the last, I guess it was 5 years by the time I saw it, I was completely floored. Now, you have to remember, a Wall Street firm really is a technology company. They're providing services, a balance sheet, but it's all wrapped around technology and data. That is what differentiates one often dealer from another. And when I saw the opportunity to help transform and close a data gap with the Ryah ecosystem, what this company had produced, but not yet been able to interpret and monetize, I saw an opportunity and I took it.
Okay, so that's a good transition. Let's talk about that. What exactly is the Ryah ecosystem? And I'll while you're doing that, I'm going to bring up a chart that.
Sure. Absolutely. This company, frankly, has evolved like every company over the last 5 years, but particularly through the COVID crisis. I got to tell you, it wasn't a fun 2020. Nobody probably, any company can say the same thing. But we really found our niche. We had migrated, as I said, from this sort of strain recommendation engine, but we're still collecting data there, to this sort of one device story, to now what I like to call it is sort of this pioneering IoT device and digital care platform, a data analytics platform. Our entire mandate, Spencer, is to capture complex data points so that doctors and clinics can better understand the effects of plant-based medicine, not just cannabis, to help them create highly personalized and highly customized dosing or volume measurement. That is our story. We are a device and data story. There are really good device companies out there to collect, that have good quality workmanship. And there's pretty good data companies out there scraping millions of points of data off the web and providing interpretation analytics. Nobody does both but us. Not in this game. We are both. We are what I like to call, when you invest in a company or you look at a product, either you're mining for gold or you're selling pickaxes. We have both. We're mining data. That is the new gold in this space. And we have the pickaxes. We have the devices that capture the captive patient dosing data. And that's where we're trying to close the data. We're not trying to close the data gap. We're looking to lead the world globally in plant-based medicine data analytics in this space.
So let's talk about that data and where, because I have these conversations every day. I had one yesterday as well. In terms of just people's general awareness of their data, who has it, where it goes, and what is made of it. Obviously, you're collecting massive amounts of data. Where is that coming from? And can you speak a little bit to the security of that data and how you navigate that minefield, knowing that, I mean, this is an issue that Congress is interested in, right? Is the issue of data ownership, right? So, how you navigate that area?
That's a good question, and data privacy is critical. It's at the core of our governance. Again, it's all about governance, whether it's medical story or whether it's data story. So, all of our devices, we have a suite of IoT devices. We're not just a one device story. We're becoming agnostic to the delivery mechanism, whether it's inhalation, whether it's transdermal. We're also becoming agnostic to the medicine type. It doesn't need to be cannabis. We're not married to cannabis. This is a med tech story. So, but all of our devices follow the same protocol. We capture anonymous patient dosing data. So therefore, all of our products are on a Hipaa compliant cloud on AWS. We don't have a clue who the patient is. We don't collect any personal data. Patients volunteer their demographics because demographics are affected massively by different types of strains. We obviously collect the entire dosing session. So if you look at the smart inhaler on the upper left-hand corner of the slide, we're collecting, what temperature the device was put at for the dosing, how many milliliters inhaled, how many draws per session, how many sessions per day, how many, what type of strain, all the analytics around that strain associated with that dosing station, all the patient feedback, mental and physical attributes volunteered by the patient. So they're all participating in this sort of what I call the world's largest virtual plant-based clinical trial in real time, all happening now. But because we sit on a Hipaa compliant cloud, and we don't collect any patient dosing data, doctors, clinics, and hospitals and regulators look at things like, a 40-year-old male with fibromyalgia took this strain with this harvest date and this batch date, and this many milliliters inhaled converted into this many milligrams of THC, and he felt this way at this time of day, and this was his feedback. But we don't release the patient's private data because we don't have any. And what's beautiful about this story, Spencer, it's a global story. Look at Ryah with a much wider lens than sort of North America here. We're able to geofence the patient's location by the App Store on Google Play and Apple, and make sure that those requirements associated with local regulations associated with privacy, GDPR and others, they're geofenced and will comply on a country by country basis based on patient location.
What do you have going on in Germany right now?
Well, I mean, frankly, 80% of our revenues should be coming out of the European continent for the next year. And Germany is the golden chalice. I mean, if you look at the German market in plant-based medicine, I do believe it is larger than all of the other European countries combined in terms of market share. Germany for us is a golden chalice. And as I mentioned before, one of our competitive moats is that this is a medical device story. This is not a recreational play at all. You're not going to find Riot devices in gas stations or hookah lounges, right? These are sent to clinics. They're sent to clinics and hospitals and research centers. That's where we see the advancement of plant-based medicine is going to happen. In Germany, we are working through medical device registration among a number of our medical device certifications. And that's called the MDR, EU MDR certification. We are a Class 2A device for our inhaler. And we have a few deals in Germany we've already signed. These are enforceable deals, not LOIs, not MOUs. These are distribution agreements that we're starting to work with in pilot programs to assess usability, to assess efficacy under the study rule, which is exempt from medical device registration. And when we do get our medical device certification, Spencer, our German partners will be able to help their patients apply for statutory insurance reimbursement for our devices. So once you're a medical certified company in certain countries, you're enabled to be subject to the reimbursement, which makes our products less price sensitive in that case. By slapping on the medical device sticker, we're entitled to have our patients receive an element or an entire medical reimbursement associated with the medical device certification, and that's the model that will lead us into the European European market.
I like the slide that's open right now because it sort of I'm a visual person. It sort of outlines how you intend to actually make money off of this. Where are you on the commercialization front right now?
So if you go back to slide, I think it was 6, the Ryah inhaler is live and producing. There it is. We have been selected, Spencer, to participate in what we think is the world's largest, most ambitious clinical trial ever to be conducted in cannabis out of the United Kingdom. We're going to have some exciting announcements in the next week or so on that particular trial. They've already ordered 10,000 cartridges from us. Wow. This is a trial that is so massive that we created a customized, dedicated mobile application on the App Store and Google Play just for this trial. So when a registered patient logs into that application, the dosing is locked, the temperature is locked, the questionnaires are customized just for that trial, a complete closed loop ecosystem. We're providing APIs directly to the clinic's EHR system. This is a tech company. This is made of a bunch of geeks just like me. This is not, really a cannabis story. We really think that data here is the new gold. So pushing that data through APIs allows the clinic to capture that data within the entire patient network of their EHR system. So Ryah inhaler is live. We have products distributed worldwide. The Ryah Smart Patch is entering commercial stage right now. That's been almost a 2-year R&D exercise. Now, for the audience, the Smart Patch, I just briefly want to say, is probably the most innovative thing I've ever seen in this space. Basically allows you to turn on and off your dosing on your shoulder, wherever you put this brain, with your iPhone. That has never been done before in plant-based medicine. Can you imagine controlling your dosing using a combination of a heating element, which we call boost scheduling, and a porous bioavailable membrane, and creating a process of controlling your dosing? Can you imagine this?
How does that even work? I'm trying to wrap my head around how that even works.
So on the patch sits the brain. You see the brain there. It's the little Ryah symbol on the Smart Patch. That brain it has Bluetooth technology that connects to a dedicated mobile application that we've built. Each of our devices has their own app. And so when a patient connects to the Ryah patch app, they can actually create a boosting schedule to heat up the brain, which increases bioavailability, activates the molecules, and enables an increase in medication during a certain period of time. So a patient can log into their Ryah patch app at night and schedule a boosting schedule. Why is this important? Think about this. Someone goes to bed every night and wakes up with chronic pain, can hardly get out of bed at 7 o'clock in the morning. What if I told you we could actually create a schedule, set it and forget it once, so that it starts medicating at 5 o'clock in the morning through the boost, through the heating element. And by the time they get out of bed, they're fully medicated. And then it can obviously turn off so that you're not medicated all day. So you're going from slow release to almost no release, if you wish, to setting a boosting schedule at a time of day. And in addition to that, the Ryah patch opens up a completely different medical and economic vertical. geriatrics and patient and pediatrics don't generally want to vape and probably shouldn't vape. And then so the patch will allow for bioavailability and delivery of mechanisms such as cannabis, female hormone therapy, nutraceuticals, psychedelics, and allow a more controlled environment in the transdermal space and opening up a different economic vertical, which is going to be much less expensive than a vaporizer, and obviously open up a different suite of medical verticals for us.
That sort of gets at a question I was wondering when I was just doing some research. Is herbal medicine, is CBD, is that the only use case here? I guess you kind of answered that, but can you talk about what other use cases you could have outside of just the herbal and the plant-based area?
Obviously, any medicine that is able to go through the epidermis, or can be inhaled, or can be used as a tincture, is game. This is a medtech story. We're agnostic, so we've developed our own suite of nutraceuticals that we'll be using for our patches. We were approached by a pharmaceutical chain in the South through a representative of the United States who was interested in a caffeine patch. And why a caffeine patch? Well, there are many truck drivers that take long routes through the pharmaceutical chain's network. And frankly, Spencer, they drink a lot of coffee. And what happens when you drink coffee? You got to stop, you got to go to the bathroom. That costs hundreds, if not thousands of dollars per stop. What if I told you they came to us and said, build us a caffeine patch so that they can supplement some of that coffee intake and continue going on their route without having to stop? They came to us. We didn't think of that. That's amazing. And I said to them, well, why not we just use taurine or B12 and other sort of ingredients that, that would be more sort of relevant to the story. And they said, you know what, Greg, these are truck drivers. They want to see caffeine. They don't want to see they don't want to see vitamins. So we're building a caffeine patch. So you're looking at caffeine patches. We're looking at melatonin patches. We're looking at CBD patches for inflammation, where we can control the formulation because that's not medicine. Those are those vitamins and nutraceuticals. So we'll have the entire revenue stream associated with that model. And on the medicine side, we outsource, again, we provide devices and data for our partners who put medicine in our cartridges and then distribute to their patients. So we have a non-medicine touching entity, and we have the ability to capture nutraceuticals on our own. And that gives us a very balanced story through the Ryah Wellness line.
All right, let's take a couple questions from the chat. This is a good one from My Point of Blue. Nice name there. With your relation to being plant-based, as we just talked about, in the world of big pharma, are you concerned with competition, I guess, from big pharma?
No, we're looking forward to partnering with big pharma. I mean, we have senior Pfizer retired executives on our team. We have senior J&J retired executives on this team working for this company because they believe in the story and they have a great Rolodex and they have a great network and their partners or wives want them out of the house and keep busy. We'll take that. So we're, like I said before, this is a data story. Our devices are a means to an end to collect data. At some point, we will reach critical mass so that we can practically give these devices away and be a data house. We want to be more of a Palantir and a Snowflake data than a device company. That's where I'm bringing this company. And eventually, through our patented AI technology and machine learning tools, we think that a pharmaceutical company will be interested in mining that data to make medical breakthroughs in plant-based medicine. We want to encourage that. That's our story 5 years from now. And that could be our exit. That's not a threat. That's our exit.
Yeah. Yeah, all right. That's a good point. You're right. You're right. Not to be construed as a threat, but a potential exit down the road. Greg Wagner is the CEO of the Ryah Group. Okay, here, let's do one more from Proton. He's asking about Hipaa compliance. I'm not sure. I'm not quite sure. Not that I'm an expert, but I'm not quite sure what Hipaa would mean for you and what you would mean for Hipaa as far as what you can do, what you can and can't do with all this data you're collecting.
You have to remember that again, we don't collect any patient data, and all of our products are on HIPAA compliant cloud. And again, this is a medical device story, so patient security is part of the medical device certification strategy. Sure. And so we will not get certified if we're not compliant to patient security. We're not compliant to managing cyber threats. This is a software company. this is what we do. So obviously we're very careful about that, and we take patients' privacy as a priority, and by not collecting any personal data, that certainly should provide some comfort.
All right, Greg Wagner, again, CEO of Ryah. Greg, thank you so much for joining us today on Benzinga All Access.
Thank you so much. Nice to meet you guys. Cheers.
All right. All right. Hey, that's going to be a wrap for the All Access today. But as I said, we're going to be, I think we're going to start doing these every single week if we can. That's the goal. So let us know. Email us, shows@benzinga.com. You have any company you want to see on this show or any of our shows, frankly, just let us know. Last thing I will ask once again, can we get to 100 likes? We're at 55 right now. 100 would be awesome. It would be cool. It would be cool. All right. And that being said, thanks to Greg, thanks to Rick, thanks to all of you for hanging out with us today. Our next show should be live right now, actually. If not, they're going live or they're waiting for me to finish before they go live. Benzinga Live, our new midday show. Aaron Bree will be there. I will be there as well. It's the magic of having more than one studio. And we got a great show. We're talking biotech. I think Hot Stocks Luke will be there. Maybe. I heard a rumor he might be there. But that's coming up next right now. The stream will end. Redirect to that stream. So everyone, I'll see you over there. Benzinga Live coming up next. And I'll see you guys there. And that's a wrap for All Access. So stay tuned and stay green, everyone. Stay green. That's generally a good piece of advice.